Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Maseches CHULLIN Daf Tzadi. We are holding 12 lines off the top of the Amid and back to yesterday's discussion. So we have in the Mishnah that Gid Hanasha, the Isser, to refrain from consuming the sciatic nerve, applies not only to privately owned animals, to CHULLIN, but even to Kadashim, to Karbanis. So the question is, to what extent? What does that mean? There are basically two types of Karbanis: those that are consumed, like the Shlamim, who's consumed by the owner. We have the Oila, which is completely offered on the Mizbeach. So when we say Gid Hanasha applies, the Isser of Gid Hanasha applies to a Karban as well. Are we speaking specifically not to eat it? So a Shlamim, right, for instance, which is typically eaten by the owner, you must keep away from the Gid Hanasha even in the Karban Shlamim. Or are we speaking even regarding offering it to the Mizbeach, which would mean that by a Karban Ayla you have to extract the Gid Hanasha prior to burning it on the Mizbeach. So that's the question coming up in the Gemara today. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Yosef, he says, Lo Shanu. This concern is only alakachim hanecholin, karbanos that are consumed, shlamim, chatas, asham. In those karbanos, you got to be careful because the Gid Hanasha cannot be eaten. Avokachim she'ena necholin. However, a karban which is not going to be eaten by a human, for instance, a karban oila, which is completely for the mizbeach, no worries. There's no concern of Gid Hanasha. It doesn't say anywhere in the pasuk. It says Al Kain Lo Yochlu Bnei Yisrael. It doesn't say the Mizbeach cannot burn up, cannot consume Gid Hanasha. No concern there. Just leave it in there, put it on the Mizbeach. That's his opinion. Rabbi Yechon Amar, he says Echad Kachem Hanecholin Ve'echad Kachem She'ein Necholin. It applies equally to karbanos that are consumed, like the Shlamim, or the Ayla as well. In both, Isser Gid Noyeg Bahan, the Isser of Gid applies equally. So it would appear like we have a dispute here. Really? Do we have a machlekes? Amar Papa, no. V'lei pligi, there is no machlekes at all. They're talking about different things. When Rabbi Yechanan says Isser Gid applies to an Ayla, Khan, here he's speaking Lahal Kaisa, to give the person Malchus. If one decides to eat that portion of the Ayla, he gets Malchus because he ate Gid Hanasha. But if it's just a matter of putting it on the Mizbeach, Khan, whereas the first statement was the Halaisa regarding placing it on the Mizbeach, that's allowed according to all opinions. Leave the thigh as is and put it on the Mizbeach. Ikada Amri, Amra Papa, there is another version of Rav Papa to explain, these two appearingly, dissenting opinions, disputing opinions. Ikada Amri, Amra Papa, v'lei pligi. No, there is really no machlekes. Both the first and second opinions are speaking about whether you can put the Gid Hanasha on the Mizbeach with the Ayla. But there really is no machlekes. Kan l'chaltzai v'kan l'aleisai. When Reb Chia says that an Ayla has no concern of Gid Hanasha, he's talking about a question of whether you have to do chalitza. Chalitza is removal, right? Like the chalitza of the shoe, right, by the Yavama. So that does not apply, meaning you don't have to separate it. You don't have to extract it from the thigh prior to placing it on the Mizbeach. Kan l'chaltzai. So regarding pulling it out of the thigh, no need. Just put the entire thigh as is on the Mizbeach. V'kan la'aloisai. When Rav Yechanan seem to prohibit Gid Hanasha on the Mizbeach, that's Lahal Loisai, which means to say that Suppose the Giranasha had already been taken out, been separated from the thigh. What happens now? Can you put it up as is? No, now you can't. So while it's in the animal, while it's unseparated, all agree, you can put it on the Mizbeach. But once it's separate, that cannot be offered as is. Okay, so while it's inside, it's part of the general package, but if it's separate, it's a material of Isser which cannot be put on the Mizbeach. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, he says actually there is a machlekes. So in contrast to Rav Papa. Rav Papa's approach that there was no machlekes, they're talking about different things. He says there is a machlekes. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar lo say pligi. Question is whether you're allowed to leave the Giranasha inside the thigh when you put the oil on the Mizbeach. That's the machlekes. So Rav Chia, who says no concern, he's allowing us to do that. Rabbi Yechanan, who says there is a concern, does not allow placement of the Giranasha on the Mizbeach even while it's inside the thigh. So it's a straight out machlekes. Whether Giranasha is allowed on the Mizbeach inside the thigh of a korban oila. And this ties into a machlekes Tanoim coming up soon in the Brisa. Rebbe holds you're allowed to. Rabbanon hold you not. Let's see. This is you have a Brisa. Victor akoines hakoil. This is a pasuk by the korban oila. Offer the entire package hamizbeach. What's hakoil? What are we including? To include even the inedibles. Bones, horns, right? The rabbis, ha'atzamais, to include the bones, v'agidin, the tendons, v'karnaim, the horns, v'atlafaim, the hooves. It's all one package, put it on the mizbech and burn it. No, yachal afilu parshu. Suppose it gets detached, the bone pops out. It's no longer connected. It's still covered under this pasuk. Do you still put it on the mizbech and whatever? No. We have another pasuk. What constitutes the korban oila? Habasar adam, the flesh and the blood, not the bone. Okay, so then we'll just cut out the bones. Basar adam. If you're insisting just on basar adam, so now perhaps he has to remove, detach, extract those inedibles. Gidim, vatsamais, v'yalabasar, gamizbech. Just put the basar. Talmud no, go back to that first pasuk. So we're sort of tugging war here. Talmud Victor everything. How do you resolve this? How ketzad? The answer is, if it's still attached, it's part of the package. If it's detached, you leave it on the side. How ketzad mechubar? And if these items are still attached to the general animal, yalo, bring them all up together. It's one package. It's like bottle. It's secondary to the flesh. You bring it up together. But parsha, once it separates, afilu b'rosh mizbeach. Even if that separation occurred on top of the mizbeach, you have to remove it and bring it down. Who's speaking? Uman Tana the Shamasle. Who's the opinion that has been known to hold this position? Damaru says Parshu Yardu, that once these inedibles separate, you have to bring them back down. That's Rebbe. Shitas Rebbe the Sani, as we find in the following Brisa, where there's a machlekes between the Rabbanon who say bring it all up, whereas Rebbe who says, well, it depends if it's attached or detached. Rebbe the Sani. Hiktar Koines HaKoil, again, that broad pasuk, bring it all up. L'rabis to include hatzamais, all the inedibles. Hatzamais, agidim, okanayim, tlafayim. Hafilu parshu, even if they've been detached. Listen, they were part of the package, part of the animal. They belong up there. I fulfill the other pasuk, which seems to limit the offering to basar v'dam and not to bones. The answer is like this. Initially, you bring it all up. Attached, detached, doesn't matter. But now the question is, once it's up there, and the burning process has begun, it got singed, but poikin, it popped off the mizbeach, as sometimes happens by a fire. So there's a difference between the basar, adam, and the bones. The basar, which is the focal point of the carbon, the edible part, that stays up there regardless. It pops off, put it back on. But the inedibles, the bones, once up there and they experienced the aktara somewhat, once they're up there, if they pop off, you leave them off. Bepoikin. Haketzat. Okay, so how do you implement this? Ikulei basar. Ikul is like digested, partially singed. If it's basar, an edible portion of the carbon, atamachs, you have to restore it to the mizbeach. V'atamachs, you don't restore it. Ikulei gidmatzam is the singed inedibles. Okay, so this is the opinion of the Chachamim. All these portions, all these elements, edible, inedible, all belong on the mizbeach, whether they're still attached or detached. Rabbi disagrees. Rabbi Omer kosav echad Omer vikta koines hakoil riba. We have that seeming conflict between one pasuk which seems to include everything, versus the other pasuk which limits it to flesh and blood. That seems to be excluding the inedibles. Okay, so how do you work this out? It depends if it's still attached. That's part of the package. Mechubaran, yalu, you bring it up. Parsha, but once it separates and detaches, even if that occurred on top of the mizbeach, yerdu, you bring it back down. So that's Rabbi Shita, which is reflected in the previous brisa. Hence, we have a machlokes between Rabbi and Rabbanan regarding the status of detached bones. Now, let's go back and forth. Rabbanan will respond to Rabbi by saying, Mechubaran le'israkra l'rubuye. You're saying that the pasuk here is including bones while still attached. Well, that's obvious. We don't need a new pasuk for that. We don't need a pasuk to give us a green light for that. You know why? Look at every carbon oila. The head of the carbon oila is part of the carbon. And what's inside the head? Full of bones. Look at every head of a carbon oila. That's old news. We know that bones that are still in there belong on the mizbeach. Rather, the pasuk which is coming to cover more, is coming to cover even bones that have already separated. Hence, our opinion that bones belong up there regardless of whether they're attached or not. Rabbi responds, Mechubaran that teira. We turn to the base. You're right. Mechubaran that teira le'israkra l'rubuye. These bones, etc., that are still attached. You're right. We don't need a pasuk if, in fact, those bones are permissible materials, regular bones. Of course, I agree. This pertains to our discussion. Says Rebbe, you're right, the pasuk. Viktor Akoilas is coming to cover even something which is prohibited materials. Sciatic nerve, if it's still attached, it belongs on the mizbeach. So according to Rebbe, you offer the entire thigh as a package, as an entity, including its forbidden material. For Rabbanan, they respond, no. How can you suggest that Anasha belongs on the Mizbeach? Mimashki Yisrael. This is a famous pasuk in Yechezkel. What materials may we offer as karbanis? Mimashki Yisrael, something which can be consumed by the Yisrael. Minamutal Yisrael, only something which is good for us is good for the Mizbeach. As opposed to Gid Anasha, you can't offer that on the Mizbeach. The Rebbe responds, really? That's an outright rule? Take a look at every carbon. Fats. The blood. We can't eat that, and that's the focal point of the carbon. Apparently, it's okay to offer materials that are forbidden. Rashi explains. The fact is, we do have that halacha, Menamutam Yisrael. He says there's a difference between chelav adam and, chelav adam is min basar. Or there's a gerusha min hakosher, min habasar. It's part of a good entity. The animal is kosher, right? It's connected to the flesh and blood. So, yeah, it's not considered forbidden materials. It's not considered coming from forbidden class of materials, even though the specific chelav adam is also for us to consume. But as opposed to, let's say, an animal which is a treifa, it's a new class of an animal which is also for us to consume. That cannot be offered to the mizbeach. Okay, so in any case, Rebbe bases his opinion on the proof from chelav adam, just like you can offer chelav adam on the mizbeach, so they get an asher as well. Rabbanan, they respond, no, mitzvasim b'kach, you can't prove anything from chelav adam. Mitzvasim b'kach shani, it's very different because they're, the main element of a carbon. Rashi says chelav adam hu ikar ha-carbon. Of course, that belongs on the mizbeach. But get an asher, which isn't so primary, carbon material. So if it's forbidden for us, of course, you can't suggest that it belongs on the mizbeach. Okay, so in summary, we found our machlokes. which linked into the Machlekes Amoraim earlier, according to one opinion, whether or not one can leave the Gid Anasha inside the thigh of the carbon oila when it's put on the Mizbeach. Rabbi says sure, Rabbanan say no. Further says the Gemara of Huna, Gid Anasha shel oila, so he's in line with the Chachamim, that the Gid Anasha inside the leg of the oila, Choltel Tapuach. Okay, you got to pull it out, put it on the Tapuach, this dome, this round pile of ashes in the middle of the Mizbeach. It doesn't belong on the fire. Amar of Chizda. He responds, Marei Dichi, the master of this saying, meaning the master of this opinion, meaning he was referring back to Rav Huna. How could he say this? Miksiv al kain lo yechal Mizbeach. What's the issue? Does the pasuk indicate that the Mizbeach cannot eat Gid Anasha? It says because Yaakov Avinu had that struggle with the Malach, who dislocated his thigh. It says al kain lo yechlu b'nei Yisrael ksiv. We can't eat, but the Mizbeach could. He responds, well, Mimashki Israel. There's a correlation. The pasuk says, Minamutal Israel. Right? You can only offer something which is permissible for you. Meis, here comes a kash. Gid Anasha shel shlamim, mechabdeli amma. So shlamim, of course, is consumed by the owner. You encounter the Gid Anasha, pull it out, throw it into the drain system there. There's no reason to burn it. It's not really nicer. Nicer is only something which is left over from the edible material past its expiry date. But this is something inedible. It's awesome. Just throw it out. Put it in the amma. But v'shel oila, the Gid Anasha b'karban oila ma'aleyu. You bring it up. My love, let's assume bringing up means you offer it on the Mizbeach like anything else. Ma'aleyu maktir. Loi, no, ma'aleyu v'chotzai. You bring it up and then you extract and put it on the pile of ashes. Well, if you're going to do that anyway, why bother bringing it up? If you're going to pull it out, why bother bringing it up? Because it's unbecoming, it's disrespectful. It's not dignified to cut it up before you bring it up. So you bring it up as a full thigh, and then upstairs you do surgery and you extract the Gid Anasha. The pasuk says, the pasuk there is exhorting the community to be careful in the way they offer karbanos, do it in a generous, honorable way, without cutting corners. You try doing this to your governor. Let's see if he accepts it from you. So basically, you're supposed to offer karbanos that are covered, and that's why we bring it up as a whole entity and then do the extraction upstairs. Okay? So as to the question of whether you can offer Gid Anasha on Mizbeach, Rav Huna says, no way. Rav Chizah says, no problem. Tanakh Vasei de Rav Huna, we have a brisa which supports Rav Huna. Gid Anasha shel shlamim mechabdel yama. Okay, so that's put in the drain system. Shel oilam cholzel tapuach. The gid of the oil has to be extracted and placed on the ashes because it cannot be burned on the mizbeach because it's usher. For us, it's usher for the mizbeach, non-husam. Okay, speaking about the tapuach, this round ball apple-shaped pile of ashes in the middle of the mizbeach, non-husam. We have a mission about it in terms of its size and scope. Tapuach. Hoya b'emtza mizbeach, there was this tapuach of ashes in the midst of the mizbeach. Ba'amim hoya olav kishloish miyaskur, at times. So much ashes accumulated that there was a 300 kur, a huge pile of ashes. Amar Rava Guzma, just an exaggeration. It's just meant to emphasize, the grandeur of it, but it wasn't really an exact figure. Likewise, the pasuk says, Hishkuas hatamid because shall zav, they fed the tamid animal using a golden vessel, golden cup. Amar Rava Guzma, once again, it wasn't gold. It was, it was nice, but it wasn't actually gold. It's just a guzma. On the topic of exaggerations, Amar Ravi Ami, it's something that we find all over. We find it in the Torah, we find it in the Nevi'im, we find the words of our sages, and it's not considered falsehood because you're just emphasizing, you're just igniting the imagination. You're not coming to falsify, to mislead, or to defraud. That's okay. It's an acceptable mode of speech. Amar Ravi Ami, Dibra Torah Lashon Havai. We find Lashon Havai, an exaggeration in the way the Torah speaks. Dibruch Nevi'im Lashon Havai, we find exaggerations in the Nevi'im as well. And finally, Dibruch Chachamim Lashon Havai, we find Lashon Havai in the words of the Chachamim in the Mishnayos. Dibruch Chachamim Lashon Havai, what do we find in the Dibruch Chachamim? Hadar Marna, as we just said. The size of the tapuach, the golden vessel. What about in the Chumash? Dibra Torah, also Lashon Havai, we find it by the Meraglim. The way they describe the great cities, up to the sky. Of course, it's an exaggeration. And finally, Dibur Nevi'im Lashon Havai, Vatibok Aretz L'Kolam, the earth split because of the immense noise. Of course, nothing split, it was just very loud. Amar Rabbi Tzar Nachmani, Amar Shmuel, he comes up with a different list. He says the story with the Talmud and the gold cup was real. That's not an exaggeration. They used real gold in the Beis HaMikdash, in a place of grandeur. There was no exaggeration there. Rather, b'shloisha mekaymos, in 3 other instances, dibru chachamim, the chacham spoke in this type of grand way, lashon havai. Ve'eluhen, what are the 3 places? Tapuach, right, the mound of ashes. Gefen, coming up soon, the golden vine, the way they described it. U'pareiches, and the way they described the pareiches, the curtain in the Beis HaMikdash. Tapuach, that's what we just said. Hadamar on the Mizbeach. Gefen, what do we find in discussion regarding the grandness of the Gefen? This non Gefen shel zav hoisa. There was this gold vine. Aymedes al pisel shel echel, at the entranceway to the hechel. Umudle al gabe klun sois, leaning on these poles. And it was meant for donations. V'chol mishayim esnad, if gargir, if somebody wished to donate a grape, a golden grape, a eshkol, or even a cluster of golden grapes. Maybe v'telabah, that was a way of donating gold, and you would hang it on the vine, and every once in a while they would transport and take it out to be used. Amar Belazar, but Rabbi Tzadok, you know how great this was, how big this was? Masai, there was a story of V'nimnu aleh, they needed to put together shloish mi'is kehanim, 300 kehanim, a whole big team, lefanaisa, to transport it. And of course that's an exaggeration. It was big and heavy, but not to this extent. The exaggeration regarding the pareiches is not. Rabbi Shimon Askan. The pareiches in the Beis HaMikdash was oivia tefach, was a tefach thick, 3-4 inches thick, pretty substantial. Val shivim v'shnayim nirim, 72 passageways in the loom. Neregas, it would be weaved with a huge loom with 72 passageways. Val konim v'nim, on every ring and every passageway, you had esra chut and 24 threads that went through it. So 24 times 72. Arka arbaim ba'ama. The end product, final dimensions were as follows: 40 amas long, v'rach ba'esrim ba'ama, and 20 amas wide. Umishmoinim v'shtei riboy nasis, was constructed using 82 times 10,000. Some say we're talking about the young woman working on it. Some say we're talking about the total amount of threads, or some say we're talking about how much it cost. That's how much kikrei zov, expensive proposition. Ushtaim oisim b'shana, they would make 2 a year. Mepharshim explained the purpose was because they had to exchange it on occasion due to the soot which would build up on it because of the ketores that was offered in the Heichel and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This was between the Heichel and Kodesh HaKadoshim, right? Ushloish me'es, here comes the Havai, the exaggeration. If it would get Tamei, you would need a team of 300 Kehanim to transport it into the mikveh. Ushloish me'es Kehanim atbilin ois, and that was an exaggeration. Now, interestingly, the Vilna Gaon writes, yeah, it's an exaggeration, meaning they didn't need that many Kehanim, it wasn't that heavy, but practically he says, actually, it does fit that 300 Kehanim would actually be transporting it, because he says, if you work through the rim, dimensions of the actual rim, so it's 40 amma, 20 amma, 40, 20. So it's a total of 120 amma. Each amma would be 5 tefachim. So that gets you 600 tefachim, which fits exactly to the 300 kehanim. Each kayim had 2 tefachs, 2 hand grips that he would grip at the edge of the pareches. He wanted, a chelik, he wanted to be part of this experience. The 300 kehanim would rush to take part in this transporting experience. And there was just enough room for 300 to hang on the edges, lift it, and move it around. Vilna Gaon. Back to the halacha of Giranashe, which according to the Tanakama applies on both sides of the animals, on both thighs, right and left. But Mas Nisan, like Rabbi Yehuda, our Mishnah, is unlike Rabbi Yehuda the Sadya. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, no, doesn't apply on both sides. Only one of them is forbidden. Which one? Badas machras. It appears Eshel Yemin, that is the right one. Now, what do you mean to say Adas machras? It appears. It seems probable. It's evident. What does that mean? Was it conclusive to him? Was it clear that in fact the Torah only prohibited the right one. Umay das, when he says das machras, he means das Torah. That's the will of the Torah, conclusively. There's no doubt here. Perhaps he wasn't sure. It was an uncertainty. He says, it seems to me like the right one, it makes more sense, but I'm not sure. But ultimately, it's in doubt. Umay das, when he said das machras, he meant das noite. It appears this way, but it's not clear. Tashma comes a right. So we shift gears to the halach of Neusar. This is a Mishnah back in Psachim, Hatzamayis, the bones of the Karban Pesach, inedibles, Ragidim, and the tendons, V'Neusar, or leftover meat. You burn it on the 16th of Nisan. You can't burn it on Yom Tov to wait till Cholamayit. The question was asked on this Mishnah. Why does the Mishnah have to enumerate? Just say Neusar. Why Gidin and Neusar? Hani Gidi, these tendons that we're referring to here, are they edible or not? I'll tell you, what's their nature? What's their status? Igide basar, if they're fleshy tendons and you can eat them, l'chlino, eat them. And why wait for burning them? Why burn them? Eat them in their appropriate time. Vidiyat, okay, maybe it was left over beyond the expiry date. So that fits into the next category. It's just leftover meat, which covers all edible leftovers. So why refer to them separately? That's the question. Must be speaking about inedible tendons around the neck, which are tough and inedible. Okay, so again, the question is, ilav basar ninu, if they're not edible like flesh, just throw them out, like we said before. Inedible material is not subject to the laws of Neusar. Neusar, by definition, means leftover edibles. So what's going on? We're speaking about the sciatic nerve. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the Amr says, only one of the two, the right or left, is us. Okay, so how does that explain things? Let's see. This makes very much sense. If Rabbi Yehuda wasn't really sure about which one. Shabar. So now the Mishnah makes sense, because on account of the uncertainty, you can't eat anyone. But technically, minat Torah, one of them is mutter. Halachically, one of them is okay and is considered edible. And if it's left over beyond the expiry time, you got to burn it, like any other flesh. Practically, you can't eat either one. And that's what the Mishnah was referring to. It says, the gidim, both of them, you got to leave them over and burn them. Eli amris, mifshep shitale. But if you take on the other approach, it was clear to Rabbi Yehuda which one is asur, which one's mutter. The right is asur, left is mutter, right? So again, why elaborate on the status of the gidim being the teira lechle, the one that's permissible, the left one, eat it. Hey, don't burn it. The yisur lishtai, the one that's asur, the right one, just throw it out. Again, that's not considered leftover. It's not nicer. So doesn't that prove that according to Rabbi Yehuda, we're not sure? So both have to be left behind on account of that uncertainty, and you have to burn it because one of them is technically edible, which is considered nicer, leftover edibles. You know what? Truly, Rabbi Yehuda can be certain. It could be that it's clear to him that the right is asur, left is mutter. So back to the question, what's the Mishnah talking about? You know what the Mishnah is talking about? Initially, he had it labeled. Okay, this was the right giranasha labeled as right. This was the left, which is mutter, labeled as mutter. And then the labels popped off, and it's now mixed up. He can't identify them. We're speaking over here in a case kishahukru. They were initially identified, in which case it would be straightforward. The right one, which is asur, you throw out. The left one, you eat. Then they got mixed up. He no longer knows which one's right, which one's left. So inevitably you have to burn them both. Because the one of the two which is permissible is considered nicer. Okay, move on to the next daf. Rav Ashi Amar, another way to solve this dilemma. The Mishnah is not speaking about the actual git. On that we have a pretty clear system. The one that's asur you throw out, the one that's mutter you eat. We're speaking about the fatty materials around the giranasha, which is not technically the actual nerve, but we keep away. One step away from the isser. We don't get too close to the isser. Even the shuma and the fattiness, maybe there's some little offshoots in there of giranasha. We keep away. The sanya, as we have in the brayso, shamne mutter. Technically, minat Torah, you can eat the fatty glob around the sciatic nerve, but the Yisrael Kadosh and the holy Jews naga by Isser. They practice Isser, they refrain from it, and that's what the Mishnah is talking about. that material, which is technically permissible in Torah and can be eaten within the prescribed time, will not be eaten because of our custom, because of our strict practice. So inevitably it's going to be left over, got to be burned, because it's leftover edibles. Another explanation, Ravina Amar, L'nisrucha, the Mishnah must be speaking Elok Ravina Mar Shmuel, as per his statement. Damar Ravina Mar Shmuel. Shnei Gidinhe. There is a pair of these nerves running side by side. One is Asr, one is Mutter. Pnimi, the inner one, which is Samach L'etzim, which runs along the tailbone there, Asr. That's also min ha-Torah, v'chayav and olav. One is liable for eating it, min ha-Torah. But the chitzon, the one that's more external, that's further out, closer to the sort of surface of the animal, running along the flesh. Chitzon, samach habasar, that's asr. It's also midrabanan because it's, could be confused or whatever. Ve'in chayav and olav, but there's no liability min ha-Torah. So on this second nerve, really, you should be eating it min ha-Torah, but you can't because in drabanan we don't eat it. So that's being left over beyond the time. That becomes nicer, and you got to burn it. Okay, so at this point we haven't yet really resolved the intention, the true intention of Rabbi Yehuda. What did he mean? We know that the Chacham, Tanna Kamma says, the right and left, Gilmash is Asr. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, we're not sure. He spoke about one of the two. And the Gemara later tells us that it's going to be the right one. Oh, he said, "Vadas machash shalimin." Right, he spoke about the right one. But was it, conclusively the right one, or is it still, a suffix? Okay, so we'll continue B'ez Hashem tomorrow on this topic. We learned about the Giranasha regarding karbanos, right? So eating it is certainly asr, but regarding putting it on his mizbeach, turned out that it's machlekes tanoim. Chacham say you can't. Rabbi says you could. And we spoke about different instances that we discovered lashon havai, exaggerating expressions, whether it's in the Chumash and the Nevi'im or in the lashon Chacham. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.